Hello everyone. In this session, we are going to discuss about why most of the ERP implementations fail. Okay, and though I called it out as ERP, it applies for the other tools like transportation management system or warehouse management system and so on. But just to keep the discussion clear, throughout this video, I will be referencing the tool as ERP. Okay, so we are going to discuss on why most ERP implementations fail. So with that, let's get it started. So to start with, let's see some of the statistics first. Okay, so um, it is a known truth that majority of the ERP implementations don't deliver on their promises. Okay, and it's often quoted like around 80% of ERP projects fail or don't give the expected return on investment. And there are few statistics for you. 55 to 75 percentage of ERP projects fail or don't meet objectives. This is from Gartner. Only 23 percentage are considered fully successful from Gitnux, and nearly 50 percentage fail to deliver the expected benefit, which is nothing but the value proposition that is from the WorldMetrics. So some studies put failure rates as high as 70 to 80 percentage. These are all the sources I've just mentioned there. Okay, so let's keep aside this statistics. One thing is very clear. Majority of the ERP implementation are not going as per the plan and they are not delivering on the expectation. Okay, so all we are going to do is find out why. And to also add over here, the failure doesn't mean it's the system is getting crashed or things like that. It's basically the project is going over the budget, or it is taking longer than planned, and also sometimes it doesn't deliver on the business value proposition, friends. So let's head on straight to find out why ERP implementation fail. So the first one and the most important one is copying competitors. Sometimes what happens when these ERP decisions are taken, um, an organization A trying to implement an ERP, they will look at their competitors and then say, hey, you know what? They are using that ERP XYZ and let's just do the same thing. And sometimes the backup what they put is, we operate on the same industry, the business size is the same, we have the same supply chain footprint as my competitor, so it is an apple to apple comparison. It worked for them and it will work for me. That is the biggest reason for why most of the ERP implementations fail. And we are not going to discuss about how we are going to mitigate it in this video, in this session. It is completely about the different reasons why ERP implementation fail. As I've told, the first and main reason is copying competitors and believing it worked for them and it will work for me. The second one we have is no proper business case. So typically what happens is, you decide that you need an ERP, and if you ask why, then there is no reason to it. So that means there is no clear vision, there is no clear problem statement, there is no clear objectives what you are going to try and achieve. Without that proper business case or a clear business vision, someone has taken the decision to go ahead and implement an ERP, and this is going to be a clear failure because you didn't even have a clear vision, not just for the business as well as for the specific project, which would take you straight into a failure. The third one we have is in terms of cherry picking decisions. Sometimes what happens, um, any process will have some problems. So suddenly what happens, some managers will look at it and they say, hey, you know what, there is a problem here. They go and look at the problem and then say, this is manually done and this is the issue. And like that, they make a collation of problems come together and they think just by bringing in an ERP, all these problems are going to go away. And this is not going to happen at all. We can never just bombard all our problem issues and put it on the ERP and just pray the ERP is going to come in and going to solve all the problems for you. It may work on a prayer, but in an organization, it is not going to work for you, right? I'm probably a little bit quickly touch base on what is the ideal way of doing, though the intention of the session is not into it. You need to find out what is your process, what is the problem, and what is the solution. And on that solution, if ERP is going to solve it, then you bring in as a overall. You need to look at the end to end of the process. But cherry picking decisions and then bombarding that onto an ERP is going to definitely backfire. The next one we have is specifically on people side. The people side, what happens? So that means moment we come to people, let's take a scenario that you made the right decision of an ERP, you know what are all the objectives. So all the points we have seen till now has been taken care by an organization, but during the time of during the time of project, what happens is the process owner is not involved. You know who is the process owner? The person, the team who's going to actually use that ERP. This would be multiple functions. If it is an ERP, it will be your HR, it will be your finance, it will be your operations, your supply chain team, your planning team, your warehouse team, your logistics team, everyone. So all these process owners who are going to use that ERP or the modules based on your implementation, if they are not part of the implementation, then there's going to be a definite failure. In many cases, I have drive lot of ERP optimization projects. You know what that means? Someone has bought the ERP, they have been using it, they are paying for the licenses, a big fee on the licenses, but the usage is just 10 to 20 percentage. You know why? When the process owner is not included in the process and you just push this ERP into the operations team, specifically I want to touch base on it, they will try their best to use it, but their focus is always getting things done. And when this tool is not going to help us, you know what they do? They will look for workarounds. I think that is where all your Google Sheets, your Excel spreadsheets, taking data out of the ERP, work everything in spreadsheets, then put it back. All of these non-value added activities come from the very root that you have not included the process owner right during the implementation itself. I would even say during the solution design and implementation itself. So I have seen this in many projects wherein people just do a workaround. So on those optimization projects, what we do is find out what they require. So we always start from the process side of it, find out what is required, and then take this requirement and put it in a right way in the ERP, and that applies for any ERP. Okay, so again, that is a bit of what you need to do, but if you don't do that in terms of involving your process owners, then that is going to definitely have an impact on your success of your ERP. The next one, something very relevant to that, but very specifically I want to call this out: no document functional requirements. I'll tell you why this is crucial. If you just go and talk to a process owner and ask about, tell me about your process, and they are going to narrate it for you, and let's assume that there are no standard operating procedures and things like that, what the process owner is going to just explain it to you won't even cover 50% of the actual nuances of the process. I think that is where the challenge is. So you need to follow a process which is called functional requirement document mapping. It is a most needed uh, step within this ERP implementation journey, wherein we sit across and write all the different functionalities what are required, part of the tool what we are going to decide. So we have not even decided what software you are going to go ahead with, but you need to complete this documentation. So what that means, this will clearly tell what I need, and then we go out to the market and find out what is available. If this step is missed out, then what will happen? We directly go to the market and try to find out what is available, try to find out what is the best in the market, and get it to the organization. But that best in the market may not be the optimal or the right tool for the organization, right? So that is where a, a very humble FRD, which is nothing but the functional requirement document. This is going to be mandatory, and if this is missed out, and definitely the ERP implementation is not going to be successful. Um, I'll spend some more time on it. The extension to this FRD is nothing but BSDM, which is a Business Solutions Development Manual, which will clearly chart out the requirement in a very, very detailed way. If if you don't follow it, as I told you, the ERP implementation is going to fail, and it is a very likely chance that you are going to pay a lot more in customizations as well. Why? Because you never said what you need. And when you are not clear, and whichever partner comes in to implement this, right, they are going to assume something, and during the implementation you'll realize, hey, you know what, I need that as well. Okay, no issues, we can get it done for you, but that is going to be plus X fee. And then as you unearth more and more requirements, because you don't have a well written FRD and BSDM, your project budget will keep increasing day by day. And trust me, there is no turning back, because you already made the deal, you already made the advance, you can never come back. The next one we have is over customization. This is a good extension to what I just talked about in terms of FRD. One is, if you don't have an FRD, definitely there is going to be a lot of customization, and your budget is going to be really go over the roof. This one, even if you have an FRD, sometimes the tendency is we will try to get this FRD and make an exact fit into an ERP. Then what happens? You need to do a lot of customization. So there should be some flexibility into adopting the standards of an ERP as well. The standards of ERP is not written just like that, right? Because the provider is also put in a lot of research and find out what is the ideal way of running. So that is where the consultant's role, the functional consultant's role, is exactly bridging between what I require, what is available, and have that level of flexibility to avoid over customization. Okay, so but if you get into over customization, the maintenance bit, training bit is going to become a big challenge post the implementation, and that is one of the reason where the implementations fail, and sometimes it won't give you the ROA, because your budget would have gone up in terms of implementation and the maintenance. The next one we have is in terms of the change management, which is not just the ERP. It applies for any project, but for ERP it's very important. I'll tell you why. Um, think about a warehouse WMS implementation. It's a very classic example. Think about a team who's always used to go into the warehouse. They know all the products, they know all the SKUs where they are stored. So they are literally working on that facility for years together. They know everything. Now, suddenly you are going to tell them, hey, you know what? You are going to use WMS. In that, there is a module called location management. Now, the system will tell you which location to go pick and come back. Now, this may look like a great change, but trust me, when you have to take this to the people who are not used to this kind of working for the past maybe a decade or two, it is a big ocean of a change for them. And if that change is not managed well, even if you have done and selected the best tool, you have included the process owners and everyone part of the implementation, but if you're not managing the change well, people will have the tendency to tell and then say, you know what, no, that is actually not adding value to me. Moment they started talking in that way, that becomes a kind of a big voice, and it will go to the management and they say the tool is not working. In a very blunt way, it will go. Why? The root is the change is not managed well. Many ERP projects, there won't be a change manager. That is a role which has to be part of this kind of a big transformation. So it is very important that we should have a dedicated role like a change manager to handle this part of ERP implementations. And I would say for all ERP implementations, for that very matter, WMS, TMS, for all these things, a change manager is a must, or you have a functional consultant who can take care of the change part as well. The next one we have is underestimating time and budget, and this is the last point, the eighth point what we have. So even though you have done all of this, if you don't have a clear project management methodology, I'm sure you all know about project management methodology. It's all about time, quality, and cost. So you just follow all the project management best practices in terms of having a well-documented charter, a Gantt chart with all the WBS. You handle the lead and lag, and there is a budgeting exercise, and then tracking and controls. If these are not taken care of, that means you are going to set some unrealistic timelines, and you are going to set some unrealistic budget. And trust me, once you see, you can make all the changes in the world till you make that first invoice payment, which is more like an advance to that provider, right? Post that, there is no turning back. Keep that in mind always. So it is always better to do whatever questions you have, all the detailing, whatever you want to do it prior to that first advance invoice you are going to give to the provider of the tool what you have selected. Post that, you are stuck there. You have to now make things work, right? In that case, there is no question of negotiation and things is not going to work out. So make it perfect right before you get into the engagement, right? So these are the 8 different points what I've covered for you today, and that is a summary in terms of 8 key failure modes, right? I call this as a failure mode. I'm using the a risk analysis methodology, and then these you can group it into project, people, and process, which you have already seen. So what I'll do is, now, as I've told you, I worked on multiple ERP optimization projects. We use a kind of an FMEA, failure mode and effect analysis, and then what we do is we put in all these failure modes, and then and come up with a risk mitigation. We follow a set of checklists. Second, there is a right way of doing and functional requirement document. The logic is very simple. What the organization need, and that is a FRD. If you want it in a big bit more detail, that is a BSDM. You go to the market and find out the leading tools, and then you need to compare between what is available versus what I need, try to match it up, and then decide which is the best software. For that, you can even use tools like the WorldMetrics. I'll just put it over here. If you want more details, please leave me a note back. I would be happy to get back to you. The WorldMetrics can be a good tool with which you can put all the top softwares and put in your condition, do a weighted average, come up with what is a final. So in the next video, what I would talk about is the mitigation strategies, some of the best practices what I follow as a consultant, and very, very importantly, how you need to do this FRDs, BSDM, do a comparison, and how you can decide the tool what you want, and then do a complete project management. All these best practices and some of the tips and tricks and tools I will be discussing on the next video. So that's it on this session. Thank you so much for watching this, and I'll see you on the next session. See you soon. Bye bye.